Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Madison and welcome back to the next video of Youth Project. Today is day 2 of Testimony Week. We're going to be hearing Racheal Hustad's testimony. It's my aunt, the one and only Teacher Racheal. We love you. I love you. I'm excited for y'all to hear this story. It's a great story. Let's check it out.
Hi, my name is Racheal. I am Madison's aunt, his favorite aunt in the whole wide world. Madison is doing some videos that I just have to commend him, because this is the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm much, much older than him, and he can do a video just like that. Well, I have to tell you, this is like the 100th one I've started over. And if this thing doesn't fall down or the dogs don't bark, God has blessed me, I tell you that. But we're in my bathroom, so welcome to my bathroom. Anyway, I started doing public speaking about child abuse when I was 40. And the reason that I did is because I was having these dreams, and I would have these dreams about God, and God telling me, tell your story. And I would wake up and I'm like, no. And then I would have the same dream over and over and over. The 5th day I had this dream, I went to my pastor at the church that I was going to at the time, and I just said, look, I have to tell you my story. And I told him my story. He sat there in awe, and he said, you need to tell the church. I'm like, no, I'm not going to get up in front of a bunch of people and tell my story. And he said, you've got to do it. And I said, absolutely not. The next day, that night, I had the same dream. The next day, I had the same dream. And I ended up calling him because I was so tired. It was just the strangest thing that was happening to me. Finally, I called him and I said, okay, I'll tell my story. So I did tell my story. After I told my story, the audience was crying. There were some people that came up to me and just said, oh my God, I was abused too. And I'm thinking, oh my, but it was just an overwhelming feeling that there was 2 kids in there, 2 teenage kids, that came forward to the pastor and said, you need to help me. And 2 kids were taken out of their homes because there was so much abuse going on. And then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so glad God gave me this information so I could help somebody out there, because child abuse is gone big. God doesn't want the children he loves abused. He doesn't. You read in Psalms, children are a gift from the Lord. And you have to look at your kids, teenagers, that means they're a gift. God gave us kids. We're to love them. We're not to abuse them. Because in Proverbs it talks about a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. And that's basically how my father was. My father was an alcoholic. He was a very mean man. He just thought kids were born to be punching bags. There's been many, I was in the hospital. I almost had my eye poked out. I was thrown out windows. I just was not treated very nice. And how I dealt with it is through the Bible, the Word. Church gave me the love I needed, but the Word is what I used as a guide going through the abuse. Did I feel hatred towards my parents? No. I did probably at one time before I read in the Bible of the wrath that happens to people who don't obey God. I remember one verse in Revelation, it's 21:18. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the murderers, and all liars or sinners, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. To me, I was content, because what was going to happen is I didn't feel hatred towards my parents. I had a mother who never had mother instincts, because if she did, we wouldn't have endured what we endured. And that's sad to me, that a woman who has children, as many as she did, that she couldn't protect them like a lion with its cubs. I know if anybody hurt my kids, that person wouldn't be living in my house. And those are things that you have to understand. There's many people being abused, and the way they handle it is not the same as I kind of handled it, because there's the spiritual, and then there's the human. You can be as Christian as you want to be, but there's still that human feeling of neglect, of self-worth. Fortunately, I never felt any of that like it was my fault, because at an early age, I was reading in the book that this is man's fault. This isn't God's fault, because a lot of people will say, well, you know, God did this to you. No, he did not. Man did this to me, because when we're born sinful. We're born into this, but if we don't have salvation along with it, we're going to go down a road that we don't want to go down. And what happens is, with child abuse, it puts kids on the wrong path, because you can either take the abuse, not take it, I don't want to say that, endure it. You can't help. We were all dealt a card, and these cards were handed out, and that was my card. And I've learned through the Word that Jesus actually suffered worse than I ever did. I mean, what's a black eye? What's a couple stitches here and there? And I related that to his life, because Jesus died for us. There was a song that came to mind when I was a child, and the name of it was a folk song, so I don't think any of you heard about it, but in the song, it's called "For Those Tears I Died." And in the verse, it says, "Come to the waters, stand by my side. I know you are thirsty, you won't be denied. I felt every teardrop when in darkness you cried. I strove to remind you that those tears I died." And that song stayed with me from age 11, 12, all the way until I turned 18. That was my spiritual song. The human song that I loved was "I Am a Rock" by Simon and Garfunkel. The verse is, the last verse of the song, the last lines is, "A rock feels no pain and an island never cries." So when people ask me, when I tell my story, I do bring those two songs in, because my spiritual side is God was watching over me. God wasn't going to hand me something that I couldn't endure. He knew that at night, in my younger years, I used to cry until I was strong enough to handle it and say, okay, well, you know what? God is protecting me. I was just so thankful, and I would pray every night that I thank you for keeping me alive one day. Because you know what? You never know. In my life, I could have been killed by my dad. I have no idea. But my brothers and sisters, most of them never stuck around. I stayed until I was 18 because I wanted to go to college. I wanted to have a life. And I always felt that God would punish those who did us wrong. So there was no hatred in me towards them, because I knew in the end that God would take care of that for me. And I didn't want to waste my time and effort into hating someone so it would destroy my life. There was a verse that one of my pastors brought up the other day, because we're all on lockdown, and he was online, and he brought up a verse that I remembered when I was 12. And it's in Philippians chapter 4, verse 11. "I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. I know both how to have a little, and I know how to have a lot. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being content. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need, I am able to do things through him." That is so true, because when Paul wrote this, Paul's in prison. He's in a prison cell, and he's writing this. What kind of fun is he having? He learned to be content in what was being laid out for him. And that's how I felt as a kid, because, okay, I loved going to school, never missed a day, because I loved school, because it took me out of my house, and I could act normal in the school. I didn't have to impress anybody. I didn't have to be scared. I didn't have to shake like a leaf when my dad walked in the door. I felt safe because school was safe to me. And that's where I don't understand a lot of the bullying, because I was bullied. I was only 4'10", I weighed 70 pounds in high school, and people would lock me in lockers. But I thought it was like, wow, I'm getting attention. You know, I didn't consider that bullying. But there were some people that were being bullied as bad as I am. But you have to remember, being bullied it's just not good, because next person that you bully, you don't know what their background is. These kids at my high school, they didn't realize how much I just loved them all, because they made me feel like I've been accepted. You know, I was accepted. They weren't beating me up. They were teasing me a lot, but that eventually went away. But that's what I mean. And when Madison came to me, I think he was 10. I think he was 10 or 11. And he was being bullied at school. And, you know, your first reaction as an aunt is, where are they? Where are they? But you have to I had to try to teach him that he can't let those words hurt him or stop him from being who he wanted to be. And it's very difficult you can tell him about God and you can read all this, but you can get advice. And this is the Bible is a very good book for advice, because it did well with me, because it taught me that the person that was abusing me was a very bad person, and he was sinning. I was being good and he was being bad. And so it wasn't my fault. So, and that's what happens in abuse, is people will blame themselves. The poor kids blame themselves, like, what did I do? I shouldn't have been born. I shouldn't do this. No. We all have a purpose in life. Our purpose in life, because we all have a story. I know what my purpose now, and that's why I try to help kids that are abused. I speak as much as I can to see who I can reach out, because, you know, we all need God in our life. We all need him. These verses, the words that, you know, he wants kids, you know, Jesus always specifies, let the children come to me. Do not hinder them, for that such belongs to the kingdom of God. And that's basically what I firmly believe. And that's why I'm a kid advocate. I would speak anywhere, anytime, just to help the kids. And I think Madison has turned his life around to where I just was kind of like, the last time I went and saw him, we were at church, and I'm looking at him, and he's singing and praising, and I'm thinking, wow, it's so nice to see young people do that, instead of waiting until they're older, until they've done what they needed to do, then go to God. But again, I just praise him for what he's doing. And I just wanted to give a short testimony. And my phone just dropped again. Sorry. But anyway, God bless all of you, and I hope one day you'll be able to hear my story, and I hope it helps somebody.
Thank you so much for watching. I know I was impacted by that testimony. I hope you were too. Tomorrow is day 3. Definitely check it out. It is April Fool's Day. Don't forget about that. I'm excited for y'all to hear it. See y'all tomorrow.